Heading to Raleigh to return some plates today. Hey, I'm Chris, and this is Carolina Moto Life. Motorcycles, midlife, and the road ahead. One thing I forgot to mention on that 1,000-mile review, and this is the follow-up to that 1,000-mile review. One thing I forgot to mention that I don't like, and this is probably the biggest thing, is, as you can see here, I'm fiddling with the navigation. If you don't get your phone hooked up in just the right sequence and make sure you wait until it prompts you to join the bike's network, then this happens. It doesn't actually connect the map, and sometimes the turn-by-turn doesn't even work, and that's what happened to me here. I decided you can manually prompt it to tell you what the next turn is. So I did that all the way to DMV. It is frustrating, especially if you're going somewhere you're not familiar with, which I haven't been to this DMV. Actually, I haven't been to this one ever, I don't think. I've gone to the main one. But this one, so what happens is when it's in this mode and you can get the audible prompt, it doesn't tell you at the last minute. It just says your destination will be in a half mile. Your destination will be in a quarter mile. And after that, it's not like your destination is on the left or right or anything like that. So if you've never seen the place, you're kind of left guessing exactly what it is. And in this case, the DMV was in a corner shopping center. And so I had to ride around a little bit until I found one. Obviously not the end of the world. I'm out riding my bike, so that's fun. But that part is frustrating. That's probably my biggest pet peeve with the bike. On the way home, I sequenced it just right, and I got the map, I got the turn-by-turn, no big deal, and that was more fun for sure. But that's the number one pet peeve I have. Now that said,
in a quarter of a mile,
I am returning the plates for my BMW R18 GSA that I just sold. Somebody got a great deal. I was able to sell it for a bit better than the dealership was going to give it to me on a trade. So from that perspective, it's a win-win. I will probably eventually get a smaller bike. That's a big bike too, but a smaller bike for just tinkering around town and stuff like that. I love the look of that Moto Guzzi V7. What small bikes do you like? I think that one looks great. It's kind of in the same spirit of these BMWs with the shaft drive and the kind of, the transverse mounted engine and stuff like that. Air cooled, which I definitely like that, kind of old school. How about you? What's your small bike that you really like? Now, I will say, as part of the follow-up, I'm going to answer a bunch of questions, but when I finally got a good chance to look at the bike, I was surprised to see there was a little more damage than I first thought. I'll cover that at the end. So I really appreciate all of the comments. Thank you all. That was so much fun interacting with you and hearing your opinions and your experience. That was pretty cool. So thank you for that. One person described these R18 bikes as flamboyant. And the more I chewed on that word, the more I thought it absolutely fits. So that was great. Thank you so much. Now, between Raleigh traffic and motorway speeds, this bike really just settles in. Somebody had asked how it feels from 65 to 80 miles an hour, and the reality is it just hums along like it's nothing. The bike at those speeds varies from about 2,000 to 2,800 RPM, totally composed, cruises along like it's nothing, and I'm 6'2", 32-inch inseam with a size 12 boot. And another person asked about the controls. I have no problem with the controls at all. My feet fit under there, no problem. I really like the heel toe shifter. I think some people that have mentioned having problem with the shifter or the brake, well, probably not the brake, but the shifter, they're probably trying to use it just with their toe. And they probably weren't used to a heel toe shifter, and that's what likely threw them. As I said again, it is easy for me after, probably by the end of that first day riding home, it was second nature. And somebody else asked about the paint. I think the flat paint is absolutely gorgeous. When you look at it, sometimes it is this beautiful steel gray that's just classic. Other times it has a hint of green. It's just gorgeous. Now, I have read that it needs special care, so you do have to make sure you wash it with wash that isn't going to impart any kind of shine. And if it were to get a scratch, you can't just buff it out. You'd have to go get special repair to get it fixed. But I think it looks good enough that even with that special care, I think it's gorgeous and it really stands out. But that said, I haven't seen a paint job on these that doesn't look beautiful. BMW has knocked the paint out of the park for sure. They just have some classic, beautiful paint jobs. Now, I will say about that damage. So the rest of this ride is just going to be my coming back from DMV. I saw some interesting things. I saw some protesters at one point, but that'll be the rest of the ride to talk about, to answer the questions that people had. But now to the damage. The damage. My pride was certainly damaged when I dropped that bike. After I thought there was no additional damage beyond the scuff of the crash bar, I went out and I did check it over again, and I could feel a little pock mark on the saddlebag, and again a little pock mark on the exhaust. I try to take pictures here so you can see it. It is difficult to see, thankfully, and it's almost on the underside. It's right where it curves on each of them. So I'm thankful that was it. It was a boneheaded move. Like I said, I was getting over being sick. I had moved my car out of the way. I put the key to the car, or the key to the bike back, and had the key to the car in my pocket, thinking the battery was dead when I went back out. And that, unfortunately, is how the whole thing started. And then, like I said, trying to hold it by the handlebars and run it up that little bit of a hill, and dropped it. So that just sucked. But, it's no worse for the wear. And I've had way worse. I've laid down a bike many, many years ago, and maybe that'll be a time for another story. But I'd be interested to know from you, if you were going to get a little bike to have as like a companion to this for just running around, what would you get? I really like the look of that Moto Guzzi V7. I think that's beautiful. It's kind of in the same classic look and feel. But how about you? What would you get?
In a quarter of a
and
mile,
again,
turn
thank
left
you so
onto
much for
Nisqually
the
Boulevard.
likes and the comments and all the new subscribers. I really appreciate that. And if you've gotten this far, enjoy the rest of the ride around Raleigh before we get allegedly some snow. And thank you so much.
Turn left. quarter of a mile of the traffic light, turn right onto Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Turn right. In half a mile, keep left to stay on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. In a quarter of a mile, keep left to stay on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Keep left. of a mile, turn left onto Avant Ferry Road. In a quarter of a mile, turn left onto Avant Ferry Road.